Professor Blackman Richards. I'm so happy that you're here again with me to continue this very important conversation about self-esteem.
Yes.
And for those of you who missed the last episode, I'm just going to introduce her really quickly. Professor Blackman she was my employer for 2 years. In this country, she was the first person that gave me a break in my career. Different episode, different conversation. But she's been an educator for over 25 years. And she's currently the SIG Director program at Queen's College, the SIG Program Director at Queen's College, a program that is focused on helping minority students gain higher education opportunity. You are also the CEO and founder of For Real Women organization, an organization that is focused on helping and empowering young women and girls around the globe. That's such a great thing to do, you know. I can't believe how much energy and time goes into that. That kind of tells why you are my mentor. It tells the quality of human that you have.
Thank
and
you.
I'm so glad that you are here to bless us with those knowledge of yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you once again for the invitation.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining me. And in the previous episode, you explained what self-esteem means, and you explained it to be self-value. You also talked about the oppressor and the oppressed, and how the oppressed can become the oppressor if you don't take the basic step to rebuilding your self-value.
Absolutely.
And I really want to dive into that conversation of those basic steps you can take to becoming, just understanding yourself and building your own self-esteem instead of actually focusing on becoming an oppressor.
Right. So I want to scroll back a little bit before everyone starts writing about how could the oppressed be one's oppressed. Remember that we don't have to be oppressed by people. We could be oppressed by philosophies, ways of thinking, things, right? So you could be oppressed by feeling that you're superior. That's oppression, right? So we have to look at it in a broader picture. When we talk about self-value, and specifically to what you're saying about climbing out of it, can we get out of it? I want to point out that there are two very important things for us to be able to do that. Self-reflection is critical, and accountability. I believe that the people who are the most successful in life are the people who are able to self-reflect deeply.
I agree.
And self-reflection requires you to be accountable to yourself. It's not about what she said to me, what he did to me, how wrong this is. It's about, how could I have done this differently? How could I have said this differently? What is my role in this story, right? Because circumstances might be set up around us that might be there to try to oppress us and keep us down. But there's always a way, right? And we can only gain that way by really being intentional and strategic. I think self-reflection is one of our most powerful tools, but is our least access tool. We have not been taught to think about our actions, our words, what we do. We have been taught to just act, to just react, to just do, to live through life just following routines, but not to really stop and think about, what is my role here? How do I value myself within this space, right? How do I change the narrative of what's going on by my actions, my words, what I do?
You know, we've talked about actions and how you can reflect and kind of rethink your actions and focus on what your value is as a person in all of those actions that's happening around you. I want to move away from action into feeling.
Okay.
Because I feel feeling sometimes is what pushes us to the action.
Right.
And with all of this different narrative that's going on in the media, different perception of whether it's religious perception, that gives you this different narrative of who your self-worth is. How do you think as an oppressed, low self-esteem person can rebuild themselves from those feelings of not being enough to meet the societal narrative of what your self-value is?
You know, that's a very deep question. Why? Because I don't believe that our feelings don't matter. Some people tell you your feelings don't matter. I believe your feelings matter. I think, however, we need to look at where your feelings coming from. Are they coming from a place of lack? Because I feel lack of appreciation, lack of value, lack of recognition, and that is fueling how I feel about myself? Or are they coming from a place of recognition, of acceptance? You know, we have to look at where our feelings are coming from. I can feel sad today, but where is that coming from? Why do I feel sad? Right? I can feel sad tomorrow. Where is that coming from? Are there linkages between that sadness, that perennial sadness that I'm having?
That's where reflection comes
Exactly. So that's why I think self-reflection is so key, right? The ability to reflect and look at, okay, and self-value, right? Because I have to understand, okay, in this circumstance right now, I am feeling depressed. I am feeling lonely. I am feeling as if my life does not matter. But where is this coming from, really? Is it because I feel that because people are not around me, that then I'm less than, that people are not calling me, inviting me to go out, I'm not getting the likes on social media, I put up my selfie? Is that where that is coming from? Now the question is, does that give me value? Am I less because of that? And if you start to see, no, you're not less because of that,
the feeling goes away.
Because you're like, you know what, this is not
It doesn't matter.
This does not matter.
What matters is me, and I'm okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's not the circumstances around you, it's you taking time to understand what has led to these circumstances.
And the circumstances will not be easy. I want to say, because sometimes people listen to people talk and they're like, oh, because you don't know. Listen, circumstances sometimes can be very difficult. I think about women in situations of abuse. Those are difficult circumstances. Yes. Or who feel, I have to be here because I have nothing, and if I leave this person who's abusing me, what's going to happen to me, and more so if I have children. Those are difficult circumstances, and we recognize it, right? But we want you to know that you still have the power of your mind. You still have the power of internalizing my way of valuing myself and not valuing myself based on what that person is saying to me. And that's difficult to do because this person is abusing you, telling you you're nothing, Are you internalizing this now and feeling, yeah, this is who I am, this is what I am? How do you turn it around to understand this is not who I am, this is who he is? That's how he feels about himself, and that's why he's throwing it on me. How do I use my mind to turn it around? We have not been taught to do that. But if we do that, I guarantee you that sometimes things would change for us very differently. Not sometimes, I mean most times things will change for us. And the circumstances, we will have more of a creative role in them as opposed to being just the person who is receiving all the time.
Whoa. And I think that's a really good way for me to ask my next question, which is the question of the oppressor. What's your, you said, you did mention in the last episode that the oppressor was once an oppressed, and their way of dealing with that low self-esteem is like, now I'm in power and I'm going to oppress people.
Right.
What's your recommendation for those people to start to rebuild their self-value, focus on rebuilding their self-value and rethinking those their very oppressive and dominating actions that they don't usually fall back to?
Right. So when we talk about the oppressed Ike, we need to realize that the abuser is an oppressor, the gossiper, right? People who use their tongue, they might not use their hand, but they use their tongue. Anyone who seeks to destroy another person, whether physically, mentally, spiritually, it's a form of oppression, right? Yes. It's an oppressor. Financially, systemically, because we have systemic oppression, right? It's an oppressor. The question would be then, how can the oppressor identify that he's an oppressor, right? That requires self-reflection. But oftentimes the oppressor is not in a place where he or she wants to look at that, because they're in a place of, no, you're wrong, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that. How do they turn it around to become, listen, what I'm doing is not right. I'm talking about this person. Why am I doing that? I really need to look at my actions. I'm abusing this person. What am I doing that? I'm going to throw out a crazy idea out here. But I think that sometimes they need people around them that are going to call them up on it.
Whoa.
And that is what is lacking, because
Yes.
it's not my business. I'm not going to get in it. You're giving me gossip about her. I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to tell her, you know what she said about me? She said this about you, blah, blah, blah. No one is saying, listen, you really shouldn't be talking this way. You really, if you have a beef with her, go talk to her.
Yes.
No one is saying, hey, you're doing this to your wife, your partner, whoever. This really not cool. This is wrong. This is not acceptable. No one is calling anyone up, because we're all into our little silos and little world, and everybody wants to be politically correct in not doing it. But I think that oftentimes people need to be confronted with the reality. Truth to power, right? This is not right. And sometimes it might take the oppressed to speak up. That's why the voice of the oppressed is critical. Because the oppressed might have to be the one to point it out and say, listen, you've been doing this to me. You have done this. This is wrong. You need to really go look at what you're doing. And of course, oppressors don't like that. Who are you to be doing that? But you might make them retreat for a minute and they have to think about it, right? But it really is a question of self-reflection, and be willing to put in the work to change the way we're doing things.
And I think that's the example of Tyler Perry's launch.
Right.
Is very critical, because that's exactly what he did.
Exactly.
He didn't have to scream. He didn't have to fight back. He just walked towards a way of letting the oppressor see, like, I've been oppressed for so long. This is not the way. How can we rethink our actions and be better?
I saw an interview where he said something very important. He said, someone said about Hollywood, I don't remember what the question was, and he said, Hollywood still ignores me. They don't recognize me. And I thought that was so powerful, because that did not stop him from overcoming and growing and becoming, right? I think oftentimes we're waiting for that validation, that recognition from whoever is around us. And while we're waiting, we're in pause, and we're not growing, and we're not feeding ourselves, right? And we're not valuing ourselves. And while we remain stunted in that, life is going on and we're stunted, right? He recognized it. Sometimes we have to recognize, I'm in a bad situation. This is what it is. How am I going to get myself out of here with what I have and who I know that I am, and build myself to that role? A lot of self-reflection is needed for that.
This is really great. And I want to ask one last question before we end this episode, because whilst not everyone is strong like Tyler Perry, to be able to fight their way out of this feeling and find a positive way to turn it around, what can the support system they have around them do to make the situation better?
So the support system is critical. I think that we don't emphasize that enough. And I have had the terrible experience of seeing people in support systems run away from the support system, because oftentimes the support system has to speak truth. And people don't want that. So I prefer to retreat in my corner and lap my wounds and say, you guys were so terrible. This is what you did to me. That's why I'm leaving, right? But every one of us needs not only a support system that's going to be there to dry up the tears and say, come on my shoulder, but the support system that's going to say, listen, you're more than that. You can do this. We know that. We see it in you. Push forward. So a support system is critical to our life. More than running behind things and people, we really need that community that's going to support us. A genuine community. And then again, when I say support system, not everyone can be your support system.
Yep, I agree.
Not because you have the same blood that I have means that you are strong enough to support. Not because you and I work in the same place or go to the same church means that you have to be intentional about choosing your support system. So I know that a woman, in my case, who does a lot, I have to be intentional about who I allow to speak into my life. So that means that a lot of people are going to be speaking, but who am I really listening to? The people that I'm listening to are going to become my support. But it's my choice as to who I'm listening. Some people I'm just going to, but I'm not taking that in. But there are people that I'm going to wow, that I really need to reflect on. You have the power. You have the power of choice. you can choose who you support, and you can create that support for yourself.
And you can build your confidence.
And that will help you to build that confidence.
I hope the listeners at home starting to realize why you've been the one I've been listening to for over 5 years. I've been that blessed.
Listen, it's a love fest. I love her. She loves me.
And I'm so glad I'm able to share this moment with the listeners back home, because I've been so privileged to have people like you around me to keep me going. Because I also have my moments of low self-esteem, but I redeemed myself by reflection, like you mentioned. And if you are home right now thinking it's not possible, it is possible.
Yes.
I've been there. I had support system like Professor Blackman Richards. Now you have awards directly from her. And I hope you can actually self-reflect on everything that is happening around you and find strength, you know?
Right.
Find strength to realize that whatever it is that people are speaking into your life, you can choose which one you belong to, that we want to take in.
Exactly. You have the choice. You don't have to receive that or embrace it, right? And as women, I think women are so powerful, but no one has taught us to stand in our power, right? And then when those of us who do, other women become afraid. Men are like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. It really does not matter.
Stand in your strength.
You have to stand in your strength regardless.
I've seen you stand in your strength so many times.
Regardless.
That's going to be a different episode.
Okay.
So, we have to talk about the process of you becoming the SIG director, program director.
Oh, wow.
You know, that was a really... a moment where you had to self-reflect so many times,
lot.
And I could see the confidence that you brought into the office every day.
Thank you.
And I knew that wasn't an easy process, so we might have to do that some other time. But for now, thank you so much, Professor Blackman. I'm so blessed that you were able to bless us today with your wisdom.
And thank you to those who will be watching and listening. I guess the comments will be there.
Yes, the comments will be there. Please share. If you want to reach out to us privately, please do. Professor Blackman have a great organization that supports women around the globe. So it's a great foundation. I think you should check them out at their website, For Real Women International. Please, you can email me, share this video, and leave your comments. And we'll be seeing you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ike.